We got to break Cereba up. Cereba is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it, we should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because let me tell you something, this is Dart Island.
We got to break Sariba up. Sariba is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it. We should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh, Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes, we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because, let me tell you something, this is Dart Island. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Word of Mouth after a very long layover. Obviously, there are a few things I just want to start by saying is that, you know, and I feel the need to address this because I just want people to have an understanding as to why we've had some huge gaps in between in some of our broadcasting. There's been quite a few things that has happened this year and a couple of things that directly impacted my personal ability to come on and do certain things. Obviously, this has been probably the worst year of my life. I can assure you that. From my accident all the way with struggling with the recovery, and then more recently, something happened 4 weeks ago, actually to the day, that tremendously impacted me. So I was unable to get motivated to continue to do things on a daily basis. Now I have to make sure that I get enough strength to carry on and become a better person from all of the experiences that we have in life. We must insist on becoming better people because of things that happen to you or events and that take place within your life. You need to be able to build on positivity of everything. As negative and as dramatic as it may seem at the time, or that it may be, even when you are in your best moment. And because I don't particularly advocate publicly when certain things happen to me, and I still won't be doing that now. I'm just giving a backstory as reasoning as to why I haven't been broadcasting as frequently as I normally would. I'm going to try to refocus and build back the confidence in the listening and viewing public so that we can continue the open dialogue. As I know that the things that has happened within my life and that has prevented me from being able to do so, I know that it's something that I need to build and become a stronger and better person. So just clarifying all of that, I just want everyone to know that, you know, we'll be sort of relaunching the whole word of mouth platform. I want to turn it into a roundtable discussion with the younger generation of the Cayman Islands. You guys have heard me say this over and over and over. Now I'm going to actually motivate myself to put that in action. Certainly, these last 4 weeks has given me a very sobering pause in time to think about what's important. And obviously, it's the people that we love. It's the people that we surround ourselves with that we call friends and families and significant others and whatever you want to label it. We just need to make sure that we value every moment, every second, every hour of every day, and make sure that we make good of the time that we have. So that's why I want to reshape, because I think that the future relies on the ability of the next generation. And we have to do our part on how we educate them and how we help them along the way to understand the surrounding in which they're in. I was just listening to Radio Cayman on the drive in. I even stayed in the car because I called in. Kenneth Bryan is on the radio with OC on the morning show at Radio Cayman. And I'll just share this with you all, you know, just so a lot of people understand. You know, Kenneth Bryan should be inspiring to many young people in the Cayman Islands. I'll tell you why, because Kenneth Bryan grew up in humble beginnings. He grew up under in a regular situation. He wasn't a part of the status quo family system that we have that has systematically controlled and managed and kept wealth amongst themselves. He didn't grow up in that society. He grew up in a very similar situation that I did. And we both have different paths and we have different issues that we may have experienced as growing up. But when I look at Kenneth Bryan, contrary to what anybody may think, Kenneth Bryan is a sitting example of what can be accomplished no matter where you're from. Because I can assure you, if the Cayman Islands was as bold as to say right side or wrong side of the track as a public utterance from the powers to be, Kenneth would have been on the wrong side of the tracks where I was. The minute we elevate ourselves or we move ourselves into a different bracket of society and we start to speak the language in which they never thought we could, then obviously we're on the wrong side of the tracks and everybody got an issue with it and everybody won't take issue with it. But my advice this morning would be for all young people in Cayman, from wherever you're from, whatever background you have, you should be inspired by Kenneth Bryan because he is the little engine that could. Because when he first started out his political career, he won a race against probably one of the smartest, innovative members of the PPM. In my personal opinion, I think Marco Archer was smarter than almost everybody that was in there. That's just my personal opinion. And this is nothing to say negative against Mr. Archer. This is just simply saying is that the contributions that we would have needed from Mr. Archer would have been just as great. However, we realized that he became a sacrificial lamb for the PPM because Alden was just too afraid to run against Kenneth. But I said all of that to illustrate that for all of the younger people in this country who may inspire to be politically involved or who are politically motivated, Kenneth Bryan is a sitting example to be inspired by because no one expected him to be where he is. He's the Minister of Tourism, ladies and gentlemen, okay? The Minister of Tourism, let's get that clear. And now he's the chairman of the Tourism Association for the Caribbean. Now, why I say all of that is because I think that there has been a huge paradigm shift mentally. Now we have to implement it physically so that we can see the necessary change in the halls of Parliament, so that we can become doers and thinkers, not just thinkers and ideologists. We want to have people with great ideas and great solutions, and then we want the people who are brave enough to implement them, who are not going to get up on a platform and give us some political rhetoric as to why it's too complicated to do now. The problem is that now the now has passed. We needed this 20 years ago. We needed change 20 years ago. We needed the implementation of certain policies and regulations that would have greatly impacted the future generations that was coming up. The problem is now is that we see this reoccurring situation in our island where we continue to ask ourselves, who are we developing for? Can we afford to live here? Will my son or daughter come back from college to reinstitute themselves and become a member of our society and participate on whatever level they have studied in? We having those questions. These are the real questions that are being debated amongst families right as I sit here this morning. The problem is that we have lost the fire in wanting to be a Caymanian and wanting to contribute in Cayman so that we can become better productive members of our own society. Because we have this thing called the Cayman dream, and no Caymanians not living that dream. And the handful of token Caymanians who are, kudos to them. I have nothing against them. The problem is that if you ever want to find out the definition of a token Caymanian is a Caymanian who has made it into an institution that has systematically and successfully guarded out and gated out the masses of Caymanian talent. And when that person gets into the system and climb that corporate ladder and get to the position where they can start making policy changes and don't make them, that, my friend, is the epitome of what a token Caymanian is. A person who got into a system that would have been nearly impossible to get into, but somehow they wiggle their way straight through the corporate ladder and on top, and they sit at the table where policy making and changes could be made, but they choose to do nothing. What they choose to do is mentor one or two Caymanians, bring them up behind them or try to, so that they can say that they did help a Caymanian. But that's not the point. The reality is that we live in this superficial world of success and that everybody doing well. I remember watching a show special on HBO with Bill Maher, and he had a panel on, and every member of his panel thought that everybody in the Cayman Islands were wealthy and everybody in the Cayman Islands were rich. And while I'm watching this show in the early 2000s and I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, and I was looking at it from a point where I didn't know whether I could afford to pay the light bill, the mortgage, or the food bill that same month. And I'm watching this show, and these people had the audacity to think that everybody in the Cayman Islands were rich because they had perceived we were a tax-free haven, not a tax-free jurisdiction, which is the correct terminology, and that everybody down here was laundering money or whatever the case may be. But the reality is that you have struggling people in every society, some more than others. How do we reshape the direction and where we're going? Let me tell you how. Is we need to educate, motivate, and groom our younger generation, because I can assure you they will become the doers, not the thinkers. So we'll do all of the implementation of thinking and ideas, and then we'll bring the generation behind us who are willing to bite the bullet and start doing. And when I say start doing, I mean changing policies, having constitutional reform, making sure that if we haven't properly digested the open door policy that we currently have for the influx of population and residents and on all of the things that have created the social deterioration of our island, if we don't have somebody who have a firm grip on how to manage that moving forward, then it could only get worse. It won't get better. So I put a lot of thought into almost everything that I try to say, especially publicly. You all know what happened to me when I made a public, well, it wasn't, sorry, my apologies. You all know what happened to me when I said something privately that was posted publicly. I was arrested for it. So we all know that. That's history, right? So again, it's those sort of activities that creates the resistance and the reluctancy of certain people speaking openly and freely and wanting to be a part of the system that could make the changes, the necessary changes to create a sustainable environment for the Caymanian people. The problem is that we have a system in place that is flawless. For anybody to come here, be a part of our society, be a part of our economy, live the dream. We have a flawless system for that. But you know what system we don't have? We don't have a system that accommodate the Caymanian people and the Caymanian brand. And let me tell you something. People always talk about Caymankind. People always talk about Caymanians lazy and Caymanians don't want to work, and I've given Caymanians opportunities. The problem is that we've created this stigmatization ourselves. So there's a stigma that is stuck on us, tattooed to who we are as a brand, because we have allowed the system to accommodate itself and become accustomed to the cheap labor and all of the things that they benefit from. We've allowed it to happen, and now they've become accustomed to it. So therefore, it's the norm. And the minute something happens on the outside of that, is considered that it's not a part of the element, and then it's alienated, and then all of a sudden you get this ridiculous assumption that Caymanians are lazy. And if anybody have a doubt about how ambitious and creative and innovative and resilient the Caymanian people is, I will make a suggestion. Go online and Google Daniel Ludwig. Daniel Ludwig is the person that used to own National Bulk Carriers. He has a set of memoirs that he wrote. Go and download it. Pay a couple dollars and download it and read it and educate yourself on how resilient, ambitious the Caymanian people were. He said it in his memoirs. The problem is that we have moved so far off of that mark that we've lost sight of what we were, the stock we come from, and everything that we have today was directly because of those men during that time and women who took care of the men while they was away. We have everything today because of that era in our history. And somehow We got lost in translation where we no longer feel self-worth and we're always being degraded, but we're being degraded not only by those who come here and picked up the perception that we're lazy, we're being degraded by our own people. All of the things that we are experiencing today are all self-inflicted. So how do we come out of that funk? We need to re-educate our people. We need to reinvest in our people. We need to make sure that there is a system of reality that takes care of the Caymanian people as well as the open door policy that we have for people who can come here. You know, I'll say this, and I'm not saying this to be critical of persons who have sacrificed themselves to travel from their homeland and leaving their families behind to come here to make a better living. No way, under no circumstances will I ever do that. But what I will say is this, is that we need to shut this thing down. We need to turn this thing off. When I say this thing and shut it down, don't let your mind and your imagination run away with you. What I mean is that we need to shut down the permanent residency grants. We need to shut it down. We need to shut down the status grants and the naturalization. We need to shut it down. I realize that the government is hell bent on continuing to give naturalization and all these things in order to increase the population so that they can occupy the accommodations that are being built all over this island. But again, I have nothing against development, progression, progress. I have nothing against any of those things, but it has to be sustainable. It has to be mindful of who we are, and it has to be 100% inclusive of us. But right now, we're gated out. We're not included in the Grand Master Plan. We're not. Now, when I say we need to shut it down and we need to turn it off, I'm going to explain to you. What we need to do is try to figure out how to properly digest the already influx of multiple nationalities coming to our shores and being a part of the brand, the fabric, and who we are as people, which is something we allow, right? We are the most accommodating jurisdiction in the entire world. I can assure you of that. 140 different nationalities speaks for itself. You understand? So we need to understand that there is a lot at stake here, not just the identity of who we are as a local Caymanian, but the infrastructure, the environment, and all of the things that is a component to a good way of life. We see 140 nationalities. That's 140 different cultures that have a different mindset on how to treat environment, how to treat infrastructure, how to treat corporate banking, how to treat anything, tourism, the whole nine. These things have to be taken into consideration. But what we do, we are so heavily reliant on the money because we are a service-based society and economy. We so heavily rely on the revenue that is generated from work permit, driver's licenses, and all of these different things. We piggishly gobble up all those funds, creating this huge dependency, creating infrastructure that depends on this revenue. So therefore, we can't let it go. So we need to diverse our portfolio. We need to figure out how to generate money. And when I say figure out, the solutions are there. I can give a few. And we need to stop heavily relying on the things that are socially deteriorating the social fabric of this country and the sustainability of its people. And that's what's taking place in the Cayman Islands. Okay? I was talking on the radio just now. I called in and I said a few words to Kenneth, encouraging words actually. And I said to him, you know, we have in a situation down at the public beach where you're having these people just popping up vending as if they're in a third world country. And that is the atmosphere that we're currently seeing on the 7 Mile Beach, at the only little sliver of property we got left that is public, that nobody can run us off of. We got a bunch of people running down there. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say a person shouldn't try to make an honest buck. And that's not what I'm saying. But there is a structure that should be in place and should be followed, so that we don't find ourselves trying to fix one problem and creating 10. Okay. Now I said this on Radio Cayman just now, and I'm going to say it here. I just wanted to remind the Radio Cayman listening audience and the minister at the time. I just wanted to remind him of how that whole structure is set up. And this goes back to the great lie that was told to the Cayman Islands by the developers, right? The great lie. And the great lie was, oh, this is going to be beneficial for all. The 7 Mile beach, the public beach on that corner where the brick wall is, the parking lot that is currently there, the asphalt and cement parking lot that's there, wasn't on the schedule that was paraded around on the road show when they were running around saying they want to close the road and put this little hotel called the Kempton. Listen to me good. I want everybody to listen to me good. And I want you all to understand what it is I am saying. And you can quote me and you can repeat what I say. Listen to me good, because Mario Dion Rankin was a part of the UDP government at the time as an executive member, who were sitting down in some of the rooms where that institution were parading around this proposal about closing the road. I remember it vividly, and I remember asking some of the questions directly to some of the people over there that is responsible for what is currently taking place in that location. And I'm going to break it down in layman terms so people that listening can understand what was at stake and what really took place and what we got in return. And I can tell you, value for money is the most elusive unicorn within that entire 4K Man Alliance equation. I can tell you that. So initially, there was just a drawing of the Kempton Hotel or a hotel. I don't know if it would have been the Kempton at the time, but it was just a hotel. And the reasons were for all these reasons. And I asked the question directly to the person who was in charge of the road show. Now, her name was Jackie Doak. They was in the Savannah office, right next to Countryside. And she came in there at the Savannah office. And I asked the question, so you all putting a hotel here, are you going to build anything else and that beach area will still have access? Oh, no. Well, we don't have anything in plans for that right now. No, not right now. So she didn't directly mislead. She just said not right now. So we all looked at it. But here's what happened. Let me tell you all what happened. When they got the permission to close the roads, despite of the protests from all of the groups that was protesting it, they got the permission to close the road. There was supposed to be one hotel, and then all of a sudden, a condominium complex popped up right next to the hotel. Remember that? Then they realized, once that hill was put in, there was a roundabout at the end of that hill. Then they realized, oh, gee, people who live in the residence and the hotel now would have to go west, turn around that roundabout to go back town. So what they did is they popped a little connector road coming off of West Bay Road on that corner, so people didn't have to go to the roundabout. They could pop off of that and come through that connector. And then subsequently from that, this is when it all went haywire. Because then what they then implemented and what they then pushed forward with the PPM, ridiculous government, Alden McLaughlin was the premier, 2 terms. So what they then proposed, oh, well, we'll put a parking lot here and this land over here. No one said nothing about the land they built that big monstrosity hotel on right now. Nobody said anything about it for a long time. They built the connector road and they were access to it and boom, no problem. Then they put a parking lot on the beach. We got to be the only place on living earth that would put asphalt and cement on the beach and call it a parking lot when you had all that property. Even when they put in the disrespectful connector road that wasn't supposed to be there, that was on Crown land, even when they put that in, it still would have been a better idea to put the parking lot on the side that they now building the hotel. Okay, listen good. Now, when they put the parking lot there, that was supposed to be the campground for campers because they had eliminated all the beach. So the campground would have been where the parking lot now currently is. And then you got the little park there. That was part of the plan. Oh, the park is in, but the campground now is a parking lot. Okay? Then the parking lot was supposed to be where the hotel is being built. Then they turn around to add insult to injury. They brought in some Mexican sand or some sand from somewhere that were red, poured it on 7 Mile Beach. You all remember that? Remember when NORCECA was doing the, matter of fact, NORCECA is this weekend again. They were doing the volleyball tournament and it was all red sand on our beautiful white 7 Mile Beach. They came and dumped red sand, and I kicked up a big point of noise about it, and then they turned around and scraped it out and looked like they brought some better sand. I don't know. Problem is that it all ran on the radar. And then, boom, plans went in, and now they're building a hotel where our campsites, where our parking lot was supposed to be. Now, I got a question for everybody in the listening audience. Okay? I know we've all seen that hotel that is being built where our parking lot for the public beach is supposed to be, because even if you don't drive across it, you can stand up on a rooftop, Windsor Park, and look to the west, and you'll see that building, that's how tall it is. So I know we all seen this big hotel that they're building there. Now, I got $1 million question for you all, right? You're all familiar with the area, right? You got a big hotel directly across the street from our parking lot and our public beach, directly across it. Where you think the people in that hotel is going to go to the beach? Which beach you think they're going to be occupying? The people in that hotel is going to be occupying which beach? Because I know one thing for sure, they're not be allowed to go to the Kempton beach because it's not called the Kempton. And the only other beach that next to that is the Kempton beach. Occupy is there the Caymanian people supposed to be able to go freely. Now, let me just have a Nostradamus moment. Watch what will happen in the future. You're going to probably a thing where they convince the government to implement some sort of visitation rules to that beach. Oh, you can't come on this day and that day. That might be far-fetched, but I can tell you what, I've seen some stranger things happen. We don't world like got a bridge over a man-made pond. You understand what I'm saying? That bridge by the Kempton was for what purpose? Tell me the purpose of that bridge. For a Dyke Road pond that we dug for those? You all understand? Do you all really understand what's transpiring? And then it's connected to a yacht club on a mission to move the rocks and the different things on the 7 Mile beach side. Listen, if you haven't seen the writing on the wall, let me just help you put on the binoculars. They want to put a bridge. They want to have a tunnel under there so they can access the beach into that yacht club or waterway. That's what's ultimately in the future. But again, we don't know what people are when we collectively come together. The power. Don't you all forget that. So anytime the government want to hightail it down some office to sign some agreement without our input, we can run a stick in that wheel through them spokes and jam it up. Just remember that. That's the power of the people. And we need to start to exercise our power more often. So saying that, we have allowed these things to take place because we've had politicians who have went to the best Houdini school in the world on pulling magic acts on people. But that time has come to an end. That time has come to an end. We got more educated, smart, innovative, in-touch Caymanians than we ever had before. Our harvest has grown. However, we're still experiencing the situation where we are being marginalized and we're being gated and we're being limited to the opportunities to have a willingness to implement things for change. And the only way to beat that now is for us to get a whole new set of innovative thinkers and doers to implement into the halls of parliaments and flush this political cesspool that we got now and get rid of all of them so that we can continue to have the change that is needed, because it's going to be quite some work to do. There's a lot of work to do. We got to put a moratorium on PRs and statuses. My apologies, we're having some internet issues. I guess the topic's getting a little hot, so they just boom, turn a screw and they turn us off. But yeah, so so yeah, these are some of the topics that we need to start talking about. I know talking about putting a moratorium on PR and statuses and all that, the real estate people would go ape crazy over that because they know that these are the customers that put food on the table for them. But I hope Sariba don't think that I forgot about them. I hope they don't think that I hope they don't think that I forgot about the system that the real estate industry has cartelled in this country. If you're not Caymanian, you can't be selling no real estate in this country. And I'm gonna keep hype. The thing is this: it coming. It's not coming when they think it coming, but it coming. And that's why we need to have some change in this country. So yeah, that's why I consistently say what I say, because it is the things that need to be done. And I need to help be a part of the process to continue to educate the future generations in order to get themselves involved so that they can become the difference makers in this country. Because we're not getting no difference with what we got now. We all know what the definition of insanity is: doing the same thing over and over, expecting change. Okay, so we know that. You know, I'm gonna just check the comments right quick, and then we'll get back on. And there's a few things that I wanna touch on as well. All right, so we don't have a lot of comments, and that's fine. When I was on a platform participating just by having my presence there, and I was listening to a lot of the discussion, especially within the region. And what I found was very interesting is that a lot of Caribbean islands experiencing very similar things that we are. Obviously, we're unique because, you know, we're a country that don't really have the type of resources or the amount of resources, because we don't have any that is being exported that we can generate GDP from. And you know, when we look at our model is pretty messed up, because when we look at the GDP generation of our country, to generate GDP in our country, it solely relies on the same things that is creating social deterioration. We're looking at traffic. This morning, we know that today is Georgetown Heritage Day, so traffic is a bit different this morning. It's a big backed up. And we know this because of the amount of drivers we got on the road. You know, we keep saying we need to figure out and fix traffic. The problem is that we give too many people licenses. There are too many people in this country with a driver's license. People who are on work permit shouldn't have a driver's license. Yes, we need to have a better transportation program in place, but we can't keep complaining about traffic and we're not implementing things to alleviate traffic. You know, the biggest myth is that we think we need more roads. We don't need more roads. We just need better structure, policies, in order to remedy the problem. It's easy to do. It's just that it's complicated in the eyes of a politician, because political mileage don't necessarily come from doing the right thing. You understand? Believe me when I tell you, if a politician was to pass a law or go to cabinet and convince cabinet to agree to not grant any more licenses to people on work permit, you have a whole sector that kick up a bunch of noise. Why we got people on permits bringing cars from China and selling them on the side of the road? Why we got people on work permits bringing produce from Jamaica and different countries and selling them? Why? How are we allowing this to happen? But anyway, these are some of the fundamental issues that we need to flush out. We need to tighten up our ship. We need to tell people who never driven a car in their life, and I'm not trying to hold nobody down, but if you come here to work to make a better life for your family back home, do just that. We don't need you buying cars and selling them on the side of the road. We don't need you driving up and down the road for no reason. Half of the people on the road that are driving, that clogging up traffic, don't know how to drive. They don't know how to use the road system. They don't know how to use the roundabouts. They don't know how to use the giveaway four ways. They don't know how to use none of these things. And they are the reason for backed up traffic. The government need to take a realistic look at what's going on. I remember Alden used the phrase, take off your rose-colored shades. But the government need to take off their rose-colored shades and look at the reality of what's going on. Excuse me. And we're not going to ever get a solution to any of these problems if we keep ignoring what's causing the problem. Because solutions are like education, useless unless applied. If we don't apply them and take the high road, we'll never see any changes in that regard. Just look at when schools are out. You remember when schools were out? how the traffic flows coming from the eastern districts. You know, when people were working from home, you never had an issue. So these are some of the impactful things that we can look at and try to implement them in small increments to have that alleviation and see what improvements they are. But the first thing we need to do is we need to stop allowing people getting driver's license when they come here on a work permit. We got to cut that out. That got to stop. And I don't care who don't like it. You don't have to like it. Matter of fact, I'm not saying it because I want you to like it. I'm saying it because it's the best thing for our country. We can't keep building roads to accommodate a broken system. You can't keep doing it. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So at the end of the day, these are some of the fundamental things that we need to start looking at. Now you all know how passionate I am about the fuel industry and the regulation and CUC and all this stuff. I see CUC sent me 4 emails. Well, not them, Savage Consulting, which is hired by CUC to do this survey. Oh, can you give us your experience? You think Savage really want Mario Rankin's opinion on this survey? Why they sent me 4 emails in 2 days about a survey for CUC? They really don't want my opinion. They don't want to hear my opinion because I've said it for the last 15 years consistently. We need to do something about CUC, 100%. So I've actively been working on trying to get a third provider to CUC. And I'll say this because I don't have any fear and I don't hide nothing from people, okay? I've actively in these last couple of months been trying to work on getting a third provider to provide fuel to CUC so that Sol and Rubis can reduce their prices, and the public, who is 100% responsible for paying for their fuel, can have some sort of alleviation from the high cost of our energy in this country. We need to start doing this. You see, when they just passed this thing about 2 10-megawatt energy storage facilities, who do you think will pay for that? We're going to pay for it, but we're not getting no benefits from it. They'll benefit, we'll pay for it. We pay for the fuel, they benefit. You might tell you why? Let me just say it to you. We pay for all of their fuel and petroleum product to run their generators to produce energy to sell us per kilowatt. So we pay for the fuel that runs their generators to sell us per kilowatt hours on the plant. So yeah, you think that we're not gonna buy and pay for those 2 10-megawatt energy, alternative energy storage facilities, and we're not gonna have no ownership over it? How are we not gonna ownership over all this stuff we paying for? How? We gotta be the poorest design country in the world where we pay for everything that the energy company uses, but we don't own any of it. Ivan mashed up all of the grid, we paid for it handsomely, and we don't own any of it. We need to stop this sort of behavior. This is a 1979 report that was done by the United Nations, 1979. You know how many people that living in Cayman today and that are from abroad and local that weren't alive when this report came out? I was barely alive when this report came out. So I'm trying to figure out, how is it that not one single politician in our history took the recommendations from the executive summary of this? And this is about petroleum situation in the Cayman Islands. Executive summary of findings and recommendations, page 1. And when I read it, not one of these things that was recommended was ever implemented or even considered. So do we have a failing system? Or do we have a system that failed us? Absolutely, 100%. And where the Foreign Commonwealth Office was? Where they was? Sitting down with their binoculars on up on 7 Mile Beach watching. United Nations right here. Done by a company out of Canada. But again, we could talk about that until we all grow old. I mean, I already gray, so just need to get old now. But at the end of the day, how do we realistically make changes in order to create a sustainable environment on this island, and that we have to change the people who are in charge. I said it at the very beginning of the show. It's time that we implement this paradigm shift mentally, physically. We need to bring in the younger generation who is clearly not in agreement with what's going on in this island. And we need to start implementing solutions that can create a sustainable environment. It's not going to happen overnight, but at the end of the day, there are a few things that we need to do. And we need to do them now. So when we look at the cost of living, when we look at all the things that are impacting the quality of our life, these are things that could be fixed just simply by changing some legislation and implementing some things that should have been implemented a long time ago. Now, I've been saying a few things consistently for a very long time. Oh, well, Mario, well, what will happen if you reduce work permit holders? Well, what are we going to do about the money that the gap that creates? Well, that's easy. That's easy. You know, you all see that we're having a spike in Cubans coming to Cayman from Cuba, right? You know, I always wondered this, and this is just hypothetical. I always wondered why we didn't have some sort of relationship, because we're not America. The embargo that they got on Cuba don't they're not gonna do with us. We do know that we continue to house and maintain and support the people who come here, which is fine. That's the right thing to do from a humanitarian standpoint. I can't tell you that I would do anything any different, as opposed to, you know, stick them in a civic center or somewhere and let them. I don't know. I would have a better structure in place. At least I would think I would. And when I say that, meaning that if I'm in charge, certainly I wouldn't just say, "Oh, we'll go down there, we give you some food, and we'll figure it out later." I wouldn't do that. We need to have some sort of program that can integrate people within our society who are going to be positive, you know, productive members of our society on a whole. So if we know that this is going to be an ongoing thing every now and again, a spike in people coming, set up a program that not only teaches them the lay of the land for Cayman, and if there's no violation with the international law with Cuba on naturalize, when I say naturalizing, letting some of these people stay here and work as a work release program kind of thing. You know, we need to figure out a better way of handling these situations. Now I hear that they're sending someone back, you know, but did we ever stop and ask the question why they left? Do they want, you know, what will happen to them when they go back? These are things that float around in my mind. But again, I don't think there is any magic bullet or magic or magic wand. But as a advanced society with smart people, we need to sit down and figure out a sensible way on how we deal with that type of situation. But we haven't done it. When I was working immigration back in 98, 99, 2000, it was happening then, and nothing has changed in 22 years. Nothing has changed. So I got asked the question, you know, who are at the wheelhouse managing these things? Why nothing has changed? How come nothing has changed? So yeah, we need to make sure that we understand all of the fundamental issues that are affecting our sustainability, and we need to actively and efficiently start to work yeah, again, we having some problems. So, like I said, I'm getting ready to wind down now because I just didn't. I just wanted to come on this morning because it's been a while, and as I mentioned earlier, there was a few things that took place. Hence the reason why I wasn't on live. I'm just gonna check this. I know that we're coming in and out, and I'm gonna close. And hopefully Monday I'll be able to come back in on a regular Monday, Wednesday, Fridays and try to get this thing restructured, get it up and running so that we can continue to have this open dialogue about all of the pressing issues and things that are happening. What I do know is that there's a lot of issues that we're facing. I mean, we all saw these big string of robberies lately. I mean, it's just been 1-2 robberies every night, every other night. It's like a norm now. It's like an accident in Cayman nowadays. It's just everywhere, and we need to get a firm grip on that because it's creating a level of fear in our society. I mean, we had 2 people got robbed in Northside, just 2 random people, and these are the sort of things that we need to take a strong look at. One other thing I just want to say before I leave, I just want to wish Mr. Manderson a very speedy and healthy recovery. Obviously, I think everybody has read the headlines that he experienced some difficulties with his health just recently. He had underwent surgery and it was successful. Thank God he's in recovery now and everything is good, and that's always a good thing. So I just want to wish him a speedy recovery. And I sent him a text the morning of, and I wasn't sure if he would have read it anyway, but I just sent a text telling him that I had him in my prayers, and that just gotta stay strong because. One thing I know for sure is that I know I have a firm grip on how fragile life really is. Believe me when I tell you. And we shouldn't waste one moment doing anything other than we love to do and with the people we love to do it with. And then just let that be what it is. So, but again, so Monday I'll be coming back on in the morning. It's probably, hopefully, it all depends on traffic. We try to get here for 9:30, but sometimes we get a little pushback like this morning. It was pushed back 10 minutes to 10 because of the traffic situation. But yeah, so we always aim for 9:30, and I always try to do it after the OC shows. His shows is from in the morning till I think 10, and then onward. So. But again, I'm happy to see that we still got a small following of people, and I know that we're streaming on YouTube now, so we got our YouTube channel back up and running. So you guys should be able to watch it on YouTube. If you don't have Facebook, if you have friends that don't have Facebook, you can go on YouTube and watch the video later on in the day. So having said all of that, I would just like to just tell everybody to have a safe weekend. If you haven't seen a member of the family in a long time, or if you haven't talked to them in a long time, make it a point. Make it a point to go in and fix whatever that is that need to be fixed. Just do it and go and don't let that be a part of your discomfort. Just because you just don't know when your time gonna run out. You just don't know. So, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you all have a good, safe weekend. Don't forget to like and share our page, and whenever you want to involve yourself in the conversation, you can leave comments and we can talk right here. But what you all do is have a safe weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. I'll be back at 9:30, and hopefully we can continue a consistent shows during the weeks. And whenever I can't come, obviously I can broadcast remotely and we can leave notes or whatever. But again, enjoy your weekend and be safe.
We got to break Sariba up. Sariba is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it. We should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh, Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes, we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because let me tell you something, this is Dart Island.